Hello everyone, welcome to this May 2014 Start Now Finish Fast stroke Forex More Music Q&A session. We've got quite a few people on online. I've just been, I asked a question on the chat here asking how many tracks folks have finished this month. So if you don't know about the chat, it's on the right hand side of the page, or at least it should be. It is on my screen anyway. Yeah, just let us know how you've been getting on. And any questions that you will have, put them, maybe save them till the end, because otherwise I get kind of distracted by it all, because I've got quite a lot to get through that have been asked on in the survey. But just to share some success from the chat, Justin says he's finished 6 or more tracks and numerous mixes, and he's lost count, been keeping it moving. Olivier's only finished 1. But that was with an orchestra of 88 musicians, so that's pretty impressive. Apparently, it's his last track for his masters, so that's wonderful. And I think that's what you meant anyway, Pierre. And Tom has finished 1 track, but hasn't done anything to it. It's a track that he was unsure was finished. He just made the decision that it is, which is absolutely brilliant. Who else? There was another one. Olivier just started a new job, hectic time, so unfortunately 0. I'm going to have to build a new routine. That's actually a very, very good way of looking at it. In fact, it's the only way. If massive changes have occurred in your life, then you've always got to expect that things will stop happening that they were before. It's because your life is in large part a succession of habits. So when you do something new, when you change and have a massive change, all of those habits are all over the place. The triggers and the rewards are all messed up. So you stop doing the stuff you were doing before. You have 2 options here. Either you can beat yourself up and tell yourself you're lazy, or you can accept that you're a human and that's how the human brain works, and just get into a new routine and start building those habits again. So yeah, there's a lot of people on. We've now got 20 people on. In fact, I think there's probably more than that, because this doesn't actually give me 22 here and 20 maybe on the wider internet. It doesn't actually give me a very good idea. But anyway, I've got a lot of questions on the survey. Thanks for everyone that sent them in. The first one, I'm going to do this slightly differently from usual. What I have done in the past is I've taken the survey responses and I've put them into a mind map, and I've done all the ahas first and then the questions second. One of my coaches suggested that with Q&As, what maybe I would like to should try is to answer the questions without actually looking at them beforehand, because what I've done in the past is I've prepared, well, I haven't exactly prepared answers, but I've sort of, come up with some bullet points. And my coach said, try doing it without actually looking at the questions beforehand, because you might find you actually provide better value that way, which is kind of counterintuitive, but that's certainly what she has found. So that's what I'm doing. So what I'm doing is I'm literally reading from the survey responses. So I'll be reading any ahas and questions at the same time. So that might actually keep it more interesting as well, which is an added benefit. So the first one is from David. And his big woohoo is, I'm beginning to truly master key elements in my musical genre, which means I can make more professional tracks. Soon I will be skilled enough to start sending stuff to labels. And his question is, I have this problem with melodies. How do I write them? I have basic knowledge with scales, keys, notes. I know what sounds nice and what doesn't. The thing is, I need a better way to make them than just simply smashing my piano and finding something awesome by luck. I tried to make some melodies by making a simple bass line, then adding the notes that are related. But I need more info as how I can make melodies. Where do I start? How can I progress effectively? Do the melody key must be the same as the bass line? I'm making hardcore, so the melodies don't need to be extremely complex, but simple yet powerful melodies is what I need to make. These melodies are at most a few bars long and can vary. Some can be written using triplets, but really I need more knowledge. Also, I practice every day with music, so I feel like some theory is needed to do better. Okay, so the one of the things I noticed in both your woohoo, David, and your question is that you have certain beliefs about how skill is built up. Okay, so it might be best if I kind of do one of my terrible drawings. Try and find a pen, decent pen. So if this is you, and this is a great melody, okay, or great melodies, but you know. So at the moment, your assumption seems to be that or there might be some element that you have an assumption, or you think this might be the way it works, is that this is how it kind of works. You need to learn knowledge, which then allows you to be skilled, which will then allow you to make a great melody. I mean, for instance, in your big woohoo, you said, I'm beginning to truly master key elements in my musical genre, which means I can make a more professional track, and soon I will be skilled enough to start sending stuff to labels. Which suggests that you kind of have this sort of idea about how it works. Now, it can work like that, but the trouble is with theoretical knowledge is often instead of it leading to skill, because it's a different thing to actual the skill of writing music, is that it just tends to lead onto wanting to learn more theory, because what you learn at first when you learn that kind of knowledge is that you learn what you don't know. And this can cause you to get stuck, and this can cause you to not do the things, that not actually make the music. I'm not saying this is happening to you, I'm just saying what it can do. Plus, when you learn theoretical knowledge, you still have to learn it by muscle memory, almost. You still have to take it on board. So theoretical knowledge doesn't necessarily lead to skill of making music. There are an enormous amount of music professors who are absolutely terrible at playing and making music, writing music. So instead, what I suggest is actually doing, which is working on your skill without even necessarily worrying too much about theoretical knowledge. I mean, to be honest with you, you actually said it yourself. I have a basic knowledge with keys notes, not that bit, but I know what sounds nice and what doesn't. Actually, that is already, it's completely possible to write a great melody with having very little, no theoretical knowledge whatsoever, and even not much skill, because you've got these two things on the side of your head. Now, I think what you're feeling is that you're not getting this great melody, so as a result, well, or maybe it's taking you a long time, so as a result, oh, well, therefore I must need to know this or learn that or the other. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that theoretical knowledge is a bad thing, I'm just saying challenge your beliefs about the best way to your goal, you see, or the most effective way to your goal, because you say in your question, where is it? Yes, I need a better way to make them than just simply smashing my piano and finding something awesome by luck. First of all, that's how I made melodies. I mean, that's how I made melodies for 7 years, basically. Not by bashing it out on the piano and actually picking it out, rather than any kind of theoretical knowledge. And often, the theoretical knowledge that I did have, I was trying to ignore as much as possible, especially in electronic music, dance music, and I'm sure hardcore. I don't know much about hardcore, but I'm sure hardcore is the same as well. One of the things that it makes it special for me and makes it move forward so quickly is that people are always breaking these so-called rules, and the kind of the really genre defining music is the music that broke all of the rules. I remember the first time I heard house music with the parallel chord progressions, which I talk about in one of the months about harmony. That kind of I was like, my God, you're not allowed to do that. and I never would have come up with it. Why? Because I had all of this theoretical knowledge, which was like a prison. So I'm not sure there is a better way than making it by simply smashing the piano. And the other thing you say, and finding something awesome by luck. It is not luck to bash something out on the piano, use your ears, and find something that's good. That is not luck. That is skill. That is doing. Okay? So I would say you're doing exactly the right thing. Just do more of it. You'll get better at it. Personally, I'm not big on learning about the theory. If you feel that is something that you want to learn about because you're interested in it for reasons of just you're interested in it, you'd like to learn about it in that way, absolutely, absolutely fine. But it's a different thing to your goal of a great melody. Okay. Right, Graham. Graham's just started with us. I don't have the first month's content yet, but I can attribute a lot of my progress over the past year to the free content available. I was always one for spending too much time learning and not enough time doing. There you go. I also found myself killing my creative flow by spending hours on intricate details such as EQ and compression at early stages of the track before getting a basic arrangement down. Just seemingly small shifts in my approach such as these made my productivity increase significantly. I realized that all the info in the world won't make a difference with the wrong mindset and approach. Shortly after this change in mindset, I realized released my first EP and another 2 since. Brilliant. I'm sure the course delves a lot deeper into things, and I'm looking forward to even more progress. Thanks, Mike. Yes, indeed, it does. The free content is what can only scratch the surface. It's a much more kind of systematized route in the program. One of the things about the program that kind of this makes me think of that I want to kind of, for anyone that's new, I've tried to make the months as step-by-step as possible, and you'll see on the forum that often people go, it's amazing how you kind of address the problem that I've had as I come up to it. That's because I kind of went through it like that. Having said that, in terms of the skills and the techniques and the things I'm teaching you, it is not necessarily, it is not completely necessary to have mastered one before you move on to the other. I know I say in the habits month, make sure you've installed one habit before doing another one, but that's specific to habits. You can still be installing your first habit and be working on decisions and then the next stuff. Don't get caught up in one. I mean, I'm still learning about creating habits. I'm still learning about my decision-making process. This is just a starting point. So while it is as step-by-step as possible, don't get caught up in it and having to take having to complete the step before you take the next one, if that makes sense. That's an important thing to bear in mind about this program. Life, human beings, isn't step by step. It's not like that. You kind of learn things simultaneously. So Graham's burning question. So far I've only received the welcome pack and done the How to Focus Foundation course. My question's about direct experience. I've been making an attempt at it. I find I talk myself through what I should be doing in my head. I'm not sure if that's okay. It's always okay, Graham. I mean, I'm not contemplating past or future events, so I guess I'm in the present. But instead of just experiencing it without judgment, I can't help but focus on what I should be doing and judging how effectively I'm doing it, instead of switching it off and just experiencing. I hope that makes sense. It makes complete sense. I know it won't come naturally straight away, but it would be great to know if I should continue as I am and persevere, or try harder to switch off more. Thanks. Well, the first thing to say, Graham, is everything that you're experiencing is completely normal. I'm sure everyone who's tried it, direct experience understands what you are experiencing. When you are starting to second guess myself and judge yourself, what is happening there is you're actually switching. Are we still on? Something weird happened then. Yes, we are. Right. Yes. What is happening is that you're actually switching out of direct experience. So what is probably happening is you're experiencing it for a small amount of time while you're feeling everything, and then your conscious mind is coming in and going, oh, are you doing it right? Blah, blah, blah. The thing that you definitely don't want to be doing is trying harder. It's not really about trying harder. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's about not trying. Whenever you find that voice coming in and wondering whether you should be doing this or should be doing that, don't try and force it away. Just once again, keep on switching back to focusing on the experience of the water hitting you, or whatever it might be, whatever you're doing, the actual sensory stuff that's going on. This is a skill, and if it's one you've not tried before, it's something that it's going to be challenging to maintain. And the other thing to say is that the brain does wander, even for, I'm sure even for Tibetan monks, for years and years. This can take years for them to actually get to the point where they're able to view their thoughts as just things passing. So don't try harder, just whenever you find that voice coming to your head, refocus on your sensory stuff, and you'll get back to that direct experience. As I said, as soon as you are aware of anything but that your environment, that isn't direct experience. But it's okay, your mind wanders, basically. So don't stress, don't try harder, just calmly refocus on the stuff around you. So I hope that helps. And but by the way, the direct experience thing leads on to something else later in the program, which is actually a really helpful way of working in the studio, a really helpful way of checking what you're doing, which is called direct listening. So this isn't just some kind of woo-woo out there skill that isn't going to help you. In other ways, it's one of the most powerful and most important things you can do, being present in the moment. So next one, okay, so this is just a question from Shane O'Hagan. Hi, Shane. My burning question to you is that, have you ever fell out of love or touch with music? I have taken numerous production courses, and it seems the more I learnt about music, the less I enjoyed it. I found myself not listening to music anymore, but analysing it. Even on nights out, I find this, or when I'm driving in my car, I'll be listening to a pop track, wondering about the percussion or how the bass follows the track. It's only recently I started to use other tracks as references instead of making a track from scratch, and I'm making progress that way, but sometimes I feel that the music scene has moved on from where I fell in love with it. Maybe this is a growing up and getting older phase, but I just wondered if it's ever happened to you. Like, has your private life ever been that hectic you felt there isn't enough hours to complete the things you want to do? Well, there's a few questions in there. Have I ever fell out of love or touch with music? When I started doing this, coaching and start now, finish fast, it was actually quite a strange feeling for me, in that I found it quite painful to listen to music for a while, because while I made the right decision, the old identity I had of being a musician, literally from the age of about 7, when my mum used to make me go practice the piano in a nice way. She wasn't horrible. So changing that identity, it was almost like I was grieving for my old self. So that is the only time I mean, it wasn't that I fell out of love with music, but I wasn't able to listen to it without, and I mean, pretty much any music. I didn't listen to music for a while because it was kind of like I was grieving for a past self. But I knew that doing this was actually much more in line with who I actually am. So it was okay, but it was a pretty tough time. When I was actually making music, that is one of the things I also found as well. Learning all of this theoretical knowledge at university and learning to analyze it, the stuff that you'll learn in the How to Listen masterclasses, in many ways, it didn't exactly reduce my enjoyment, but it changed my experience of the music. And this is the problem. Once you open that door, you can't close it again. Once you start to understand music in that way, there's no turning back. You will never have the experience of music that you had before. That's one of the reasons I say to beginners or people who are just starting out, don't be too quick to want to learn absolutely everything. Enjoy who you are now and what you're doing now, because you can't unlearn what you've learned. But having said that, in learning that stuff, in understanding it, you can learn to enjoy it in a different way, to kind of enjoy it in a more intellectual way sometimes. And then I think possibly the next step is learning to enjoy it in an intellectual way, and then learning how to enjoy it in an emotional way while you're still thinking about it in those terms. But learning about music like that, learning more about the production and everything like that does, for me anyway, certainly reduced my enjoyment at first. When I say learning about production, for me it was learning about theory. I never actually learnt about production. I just did it. So I never really got, I never really kind of thought about music in terms of, compressors and all that kind of thing. I just kind of did it. But certainly in terms of the theory, I experienced that as well, and that's absolutely okay. But it doesn't mean that you love it any less. It just means that you're listening to it in a different way and having a different experience of it. And then there's the final question: has your private life ever been that hectic you felt there isn't enough hours to complete the things you want to do? Yeah, I mean, there aren't enough hours. I mean, I don't really separate my life into private and music, and I kind of see life as a whole, as you might have realized from the way that I do the program. Life is always going to be too hectic to do absolutely everything, and this is where the whole goal setting, prioritizing, working out what it is that you want to do. What's the or I mean, you might want to do way too much that it's possible to do. So in that situation, you have to work out what is the most important to you. What is going to get you, first of all, obviously, what is your perfect day? What do you want? And then what's the best way of getting there? So just going, there's too much to do. There's too much to do. I must be useless. Or I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but I must be useless. There is always too much to do in absolutely everything, but that's okay. All you've got to do is work out what you want, and if what you are doing at this particular moment is taking you forward. So, Cassandra, the big woohoo. Lots of small and big successes. I already mentioned on the forum having made 9 tracks in the short space of 3 weeks since joining the program. That was 1 week ago. Since then, I made another 6. 5 originals and a remix for a label in NYC. The quality of my music has been consistently improving, I find. That's not surprising, given that you finish so much music. Well, anyhow, I am more and more pleased with what I make. Made a complete track in 3 hours the other day. It's one of my best so far. It's amazing, isn't it, how sometimes the quickest tracks are the best. Got a bunch of tracks signed to a pretty big techno label, not one of those labels I'm aiming for, but definitely a good, prestigious label. We're working on a release schedule for the next 6 months, and they'll get behind me to push my name and profile. Through this label deal, I will be remixing some well-known artists, a great opportunity for more exposure. There are talks of having me on board for some label nights in Europe as well. Exciting news. I think Cassandra is from Canada, so yeah, that's great. I've been trying to make this happen for years, and it's all unfolding now, thanks in big part to the SNFF program. Mike, you've given me wings. An important point, I'm so excited by the process of making music and my own perception of improvement that I find myself at a point where I don't really care what people think about my music. Of course, I'm pleased if people like it, but couldn't care less if they don't. I'm just having a blast. This aspect in itself has been very liberating and empowering. Apart from music stuff, I started reading books and watching video content in Spanish on a regular basis to practice and learn a new language. I have very basic Spanish skills, but I want to master the language within 6 months, then tackle German. That's utterly awesome, Cassandra. I'm actually talking to Cassandra later in one of my case study interviews, because when I saw that progress, I really wanted to find out how it was that she got such amazing progress in such a short amount of time. And that's like however many tracks, 15 tracks in 3 weeks or something, and some of them are her best, which is absolutely it's absolutely amazing. What was I going to say about this? Perception. Yes, about the not caring about what people think. That's certainly my experience as well. Is that, and this is one of the reasons I talk about feedback in kind of I would always ask you to think about what feedback you're getting from who and how important it is. So feedback from somebody who you respect or know is very important and can help you improve your music. But every single person who gives you feedback has an agenda, not a kind of evil agenda, but has their own agenda. You've always got to think about they're more concerned about their stuff. So their feedback is going to be related to their agenda, who they are, what their own personal preferences, their skill level, all of these kinds of things. So not all feedback is the same. So you have to be really careful about taking on board random feedback, or even not random feedback. So it's great that you're starting to, or you are not starting to, you are paying more attention to yourself, because remember, you've got these two ears, and I know you're a DJ and you play out all the time as well. So you're going to know what's good and what's not good just as well as anyone else. And this is probably true of pretty much everyone who's everybody who makes music. Remember, you've been listening to music from the time you were a baby, probably. So you are already an expert in listening to music and understanding that, and really sort of taking that on board and listening to your own feedback is one of the most important skills you can develop, which is actually where direct experience comes in as well. So, what's your burning question? Not sure if this fits within the scope of SNFF. Maybe more within the Make Music Your Life monthly program, which I'm eager to join. But here goes. Working with booking agents. Should one wait to be approached or try to solicit them? If the latter, when does one know they're ready to try shopping for agents? Is the process similar to sending demos to record labels? What's your take on this? What has been your own personal experience and process like? Any info you can provide is highly appreciated. Yeah, I mean, this is more in the realms of Make Music Your Life monthly, but I'm not going to not answer questions when I'm asked them. I haven't actually yet. I've done 5 months of Make Music Your Life monthly, and I haven't yet got onto the agent part of it. It's an enormous. Making music your life is an absolutely enormous subject, and there are various different things we've been talking about, like how to find your original voice. There's a lot of mindset stuff around it, a lot of beliefs that people have about the music industry, about themselves, and about how it works, which you have to kind of unpick. But then also there's the money aspect, which is about the business, like agents and all that kind of stuff. I've been focusing so far on things like publishing and even writing music for TV and ads and stuff like that. So I haven't yet moved on to the agent bit, but I have done an interview with my old agent one of my old agents, my North American agent, who actually later became my worldwide agent. And his company's grown enormously since I stopped. He's now got like 15 people, I think it's 15 people working for him and a business partner. And he said that he doesn't tend to work with just people who email him and say, I need an agent. Having said that, if you've got releases, like a significant number of releases coming up on relatively significant labels, it might be a slightly different situation. He tends to work with people who have a manager because he likes the way that the manager, there's a plan, there's a kind of plan of action. But if you've got a decent plan of action over the next year, you know, a kind of a sort of trajectory that you're following, then maybe it will be different. I never actually solicited agents. They always came to me. This is why I always say producing music has to be through my approach, producing music is the way to go, because that's how you get noticed. It's like essentially, you know, a calling card. It's your business card. It's the way that people actually listen to you. So I never approached agents. They always approached me. When I did my second album, I got signed to Ohm Records, which is a relatively big independent in San Francisco, and they wanted me to get a US agent, and I had about 3 different agents who I was talking to, and I went for the one that I did the interview with for Make Music Life Monthly. So in your situation, given that you've got some releases to come out, it might work to approach agents. but I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't be too quick to, because you might actually get a better one. I mean, the quality of the gigs that you play, the fees that you get, who you get to play with, is going to be in large part down to the power, for want of a better word, of the agent. So I wouldn't necessarily. I mean, you're going to need an agent to get to that level. That you can't do it on your own. That is absolutely 100% the truth. To get to the level that I know you want to get to, but the agents that will get you to that level, I'm not sure that you can actually get on them. I can't say that for sure, but I'm not sure, having spoken to Andrew, my old agent, I'm not sure you can get onto them without some kind of other thing, maybe signing to a record label, having an album coming out, or having a load of releases. So I'm sorry if that's been a little bit all over the place. You've got to remember, though, that my experience isn't everybody's experience. I'm sure some people have been signed as a result of sending demos in, but it's about, I mean, as we've already been talking about, there's way too much to do as it is, and it's about using your time in the most effective way. And I'm not sure that sending demos to agents is the most effective way at this stage. Basically, keep doing what you're doing. If you keep doing this, then you're not going to have a problem. So next, Tom Freethos. I have my largest gig to date coming up in June. Brilliant. And I have a track coming out on a compilation in July. Fantastic. Tom says, what's the best way to send music to more labels? Well, I did an interview with Monty Luke, who's Carl Craig's label manager. I just need some water. And for those who don't know, Carl Craig is a legend in the world of kind of techno, tech house, whatever you want to call it. Detroit techno. He's a guy from Detroit, and he's absolutely legendary. A really big name. Anyway, his label manager, Monty Luke, was a start now, finish fast person. Is a start now, finish fast person, and I did an interview with him about sending music to labels, because you say, what's the best way to send music to more labels? And one of the things he said, which was very interesting, was that they, again, remember, this is just one label, or a couple of labels, because Monty Luke's got his own label, Black Catalogue, as well. Anyway, they prefer to see that the music is for their label, has been written for their label. It kind of makes them more interested in it. So sending everything to more labels might not be the way to go. But what I would suggest you do is go onto the forum, and in the search box, just do a search for Monty Luke. So that's M-O-N-T-Y space L-U-K-E. Okay, and then you'll find on there my interview with Monty Luke, where he talks about sending music to labels. Now, bear in mind, again, this is just one label. This is just the way, or two labels. This is the way they like to do it. This is how they find music. So it's not like a kind of, this is the only way, because people do things differently. But I'm sure you'll get some ideas. So it's on the forum. Wow, I've been going 40 minutes already. John Citizen, the big woohoo. I got a tune I was working on mixed and mastered by a reputable mix and mastering engineer, and sat in on the mix session to get some tips. He basically said that my mix was absolutely fine and there wasn't much he would do differently. As you can imagine, this was a nice shot of confidence to know that I'm on the right path as far as the engineering side of things goes. Also took another tune to a local producer's showcase to hear it on a small club system, and it translated reasonably well. So that was nice too. Excellent. It is always good when the mastering engineer says something like that. Burning question. I keep on getting distracted by out of ordinary circumstances. Just stuff keeps on getting in the way, obligations and such. The thing is, this throws me out of any music making momentum that I had, and it has almost become a pattern to have a week of high productivity, followed by disruption to my routine, then a few weeks of only very sporadic, unproductive music sessions. It's always this feeling of I'm either neglecting my music or neglecting some other aspect of my life. Do you have any advice for getting back on track and staying on track? I'm starting to get a bit despondent with myself and my stop-start productivity. Okay, so there's a few things here. as I've said a number of times already today, there's a lot of things that can. I mean, there's way too much in life for us to do. That is, we all know that. So it seems to be from your question that your expectations are that you should, that horrible word should, be able to do it all. So when you have to focus on something else other than music and there's something else that comes up, that is causing you to feel despondent about that you are neglecting your music. And on the other hand, if you're focusing on music, then you are neglecting something else. That might not be the best way of viewing your situation. It's likely to lead to these feelings of despondency. The bottom line is there are only 24 hours in the day, and if you don't want to go insane, then probably 7 or 8 of hours you'll be 7 or 8 of them you'll be sleeping. So there are only limited number of hours in the day. As a result, you cannot do everything you want to do. You cannot spend all of the time you want to spend on everything you have. So in that situation, you can either feel that you're neglecting this and you're neglecting that and neglecting the other and beat yourself up about it, which I can tell you right now is the very worst way to actually take action on the things that you want to do. Or you can take a more Maharaja approach to it, a more third-person approach to it, and go, look, why am I beating myself up about a situation that is about life, about being a human? That is my approach, and try and work out ways of actually not beating yourself up about it, not feeling despondent, but being a little bit more skillful about how you do that, essentially. So what I suggest in terms of keeping your momentum when crap's going on all around you is lowering your expectations in terms of time that you need to spend on your music. And I've told you this a number of times before John. I remember we had a bit of an email conversation, or was it on the forum? I can't remember. But anyway, so make your win much shorter. Okay, so half an hour, 10 minutes even. I did a case study interview with Richie, who's a guy, a start now finish fast student, and his win is 10 minutes, just 10 minutes, and he's finishing music like gangbusters. It's absolutely incredible. That doesn't mean you only spend 10 minutes, because if in that 10 minutes you feel like spending longer, you can. But make that, whatever the small amount of time is, your win. Then when stuff starts happening around you, all you have to do is sit there for 10 minutes, half an hour, whatever you decide it is. And once you've done that, you can feel happy that you are making progress. Okay, and then go and do all of your other stuff. The problem seems to be that maybe, I mean, I'm not sure, but maybe you're going, well, it has to be an hour, or it has to be 2 hours. And if I don't do 2 hours, then it's not worth it. That is not real. If any time you spend there daily is more important than saying it has to be a certain amount of time, you can find 10 minutes every single day to sit in front of a computer. You don't even have to make any music. Sit in front of the computer with the DAW. You can find that time. I'm absolutely sure. Even the most busy person can. So make that your win. Work out what your minimum amount of time is and make that your win. I guarantee you will not lose the momentum even when stuff is going on around you. Stop beating yourself up. It's life. There's a lot going on in life. That's okay. Beating yourself up about it is just going to make it harder. Okay, so Andrew, just some woohoos. 2 big releases, an EP on Plusquam, a compilation on his own label. Stoked! Great, well done, Andrew. 179. Sorry, the reason I'm saying 179 is because that's the number of the survey response. You didn't need to know that. So Jacob Winter. The big woohoo. I've joined the SNFF course very recently, but the Maharaja Mahout Elephant way of thinking has given me a lot of clarity in the way I perceive my own music, and thereby it made the process of writing and producing music faster and in some ways simpler. Absolutely. That's the power of this kind of brain-based thing. And I mean, as you've all, well, probably most of you noticed, one of the things I really love about doing it this way is that it also kind of helps in all other areas of your life. I don't really see music making as being separate from the rest of my life. I don't understand. I don't even understand the idea that in order to become a great music producer, all you need to do is learn about compression and all of that stuff. It doesn't make sense to me because, in my experience, when I was a full-time music producer and DJ, you know, traveling the world, the things that stopped me making music weren't the stuff I didn't know about making music. I knew plenty. And I'm sure you do too, but the things that stopped me making music were all the other stuff in my life. So learning about the way the brain works, the way you work, the way the mind works, it just helps in every single way to help you make more music. Okay. So Ivan, okay, so this is a really long, big woohoo, but I'm going to read it. I finished my 3rd track of the year last week. I'm not sure if I would post it on SoundCloud, but that doesn't matter as I don't finish tracks with this idea to publish them all. One of the many valuable things I learned from the course. After reading again The Gap from Ira Glass, I ordered the poster and decided to make 1 track per week, just focusing on finishing quantity over quality, which is the opposite of my DJ approach when I'm listening to music to add it into my collection. I think this is the precise thing that blocked me for a long time. I finally let go of perfection, and this is truly amazing. I guess even in 10 years from now, I won't define my work as perfect. It will never be. That's fine. If we reach perfection, then what's left to do? The cool thing about music, about art, is that there's always room for improvement and innovation. Letting go of perfection freed me. In the last sessions, I was like a child, jamming with the pianos in the studio. I go once a week, usually to practice drums, over a loop on live, recording the piano scores for 4 to 5 minutes, recording sounds I do with my mouth like humming, a few words here and there, and even rhythmic loops. With just EQ and reverb, I even recorded directly from the MacBook mic. It sounds pretty nice. I'm fascinated to realize how much possibilities there are to make interesting music with really not much. Here. Like on this very last project, I didn't use MIDI. Just started from a short sampled loop and worked with audio. Loops from the library and recordings from the laptop built-in mic. I discovered this more spontaneous approach to making music, and I love it. Way more fun and interesting than spending 2 hours to find the proper bass sound and drums. So yeah, my actual work isn't comparable to my references. People making music since years, probably many hours a day, but I hear interesting new things in each tune I do. Beginning of the year was great, and then I had a downtime due to a month-long trip and much things going on in my head. Doubts about everything I was doing and all that shit. I just stopped showing up regularly. Just reading The Gap had a big impact. I can't wait to get the poster and read it every single day, first thing in the morning. Since then, I do music every day for at least 30 minutes with this new game-changing mindset. I realized how important it is to me to be creative and allow myself to make music every day before I do anything for the outside world. This changes everything. I'm happy for the rest of the day. Full of motivation, and life seems surprisingly simpler. This feeling reminded me many of the things I read about creativity. It all makes sense now. Oh, and I read and took the Artist's Way course. I write morning pages since February. It helps a lot in everyday life. Then I started to read a few pages from the beginning of the book and learnt new things. With my experiences following the first take, I saw things differently. I started to really understand, which reminded me your advice to take Start Now Finish course a second time to get more from it. Same thing with another great book I read, The Passion Test. Once again, thank you very much for your time and your work, and also for sharing my stories last time I filled this form. That indeed had a huge impact to listen to you telling my story. It really does. I'm sure anyone will tell you, if you've never like contributed to the survey with your story, but anyone will tell you that just hearing anyone but me, obviously, talk about your success is an incredibly motivating thing. Even more so than listening to other people's success, because you kind of, it's one of those perspective shifts. It kind of forces you to look at yourself and you think, actually, I'm doing pretty well. As you can see there, Ivan has completely taken on board both my and all of these much greater people than me's advice, like Ira Glass and Julia Cameron, I think it is, The Artist's Way. Stop me if I'm wrong there, I can't exactly remember. I read it a while back. I think somebody actually said that when they described Start Now Finish Fast, they said it was the artist's way for for music producers. So if anyone hasn't read The Artist's Way, I thoroughly recommend it. But there you go, doing something every day, and he's just doing 30 minutes. That's the win. Every day, and also, and this is kind of optional, but I think it really helps, is early in the morning before everything else happens. One of the kind of ahas I've had recently is that any state of movement that we're in, shifting from that into another state of movement is the hardest part. So if you're completely static, then shifting into movement is the shift from being still to moving forward is the hardest part, actually getting to that state. Once you're actually moving forward, it's much easier. Similarly, if you're actually moving forward, shifting into a state of being static is also much harder than continuing to move forward. Although, for me, I'll be honest, shifting to sitting on my bum is slightly easier. But anyway, it's that shift from one state to another of movement. So what I find is, and one of the reasons I did that production game thing where I did a video every day for 50 days straight, in first thing in the morning, was that if I start the day in movement, I force myself to start that day in some kind of movement, then it's much easier to maintain. Whereas if I start the day doing something which isn't particularly useful, which I would define as being static, it's actually much more difficult to get myself into it. So starting the day with a bang is one of the best ways to sort of continue having that the rest of the day with a bang. That's why I suggest people don't check their email before lunchtime. It's why I suggest people don't watch the news in the morning, read the news in the morning, all that kind of thing. Starting the day in movement is the best way, or it's the easiest way to keep going. So that's brilliant news, Ivan. Keep it up. Beth Burnett. Okay, the big woohoo. Since starting the Start Now Finish Fast in December, my life has radically changed for the good. Woohoo! I now meditate, set priorities, play music, and write a list of things I'm grateful for every day. In just 2 months, I finished 2 tracks, but maybe even more importantly, I did a tremendous amount of soul-searching and learning with the help of the playbook exercises and NLP. I also am learning a lot from other sniffers about who post in the forum, and I'm making connections on SoundCloud and Twitter. My focus and enthusiasm rubbed off on my husband. He produces visuals, sometimes with music, so we dusted off our collaborative website, which is puddlewonderful.com for anyone who wants to go and have a look at it, and added a huge backlog of previous work we didn't even realize we had. We now have a website presence, a fresh focus, and connections with other artists. In the past few weeks, I've been sidetracked from writing and finishing music, getting sucked up in installing software on my new computer. The beauty of Start Now Finish Fast is that I only need to watch a couple of videos and do a couple of playbook exercises in order to get right back into the groove. I'm now working on my next track and hope to finish in a couple of weeks. I really cannot thank you enough, Mike. Thank you for putting together such a helpful and life-changing program. I'm finally doing the things I've always wanted to do. Well, that's absolutely brilliant, and no problem about me putting together this program. You've got to remember that I haven't really done anything other than share what worked for me, share the big things that happened. So, you know, I'm obviously incredibly appreciative of your very kind words. Everyone's kind words when they show their appreciation, that's wonderful. Keep it coming. But remember, it's you doing this. You've always been able to do this. In fact, in many ways, you've probably through your life learnt how not to. You've stopped yourself from doing it by all of this stuff that you get learnt and all the crap that gets forced into your head. So. You've always been able to do this, and it is you that is making this progress, not me. So, big ups. So, burning question. I'm wondering what exactly happens once I finish this Start Now Finish Fast 6-month program. My understanding is I will still have access to the forum, which is great, but I'll no longer have access to the core content and masterclasses. Is there a continuation program? If so, how do I find out more? Okay, well, first thing to say is that you will have access to the core content and the masterclasses for as long as I keep this program going. I'm certainly not in the business of shutting you out of what you pay for. It's one of my pet hates is online programs which give you a certain amount of time and then you're out of it. I'm like, well, that's not fair. That's why I give you all the stuff to download. You know, people say, well, you know, won't people share it online and, you know, steal it from you? I'm like, well, if that's the kind of people they are, if that's what they want to do, I can't stop them. They'll find a way to do it anyway. So what's most important to me is that you get what you paid for, you get the value, you get the result that you're looking for, and the best way to do that is to allow you to get the content. Now, one thing that's really important to say here is that doesn't mean you can put it off and put it off and put it off and never do it. Okay, I don't advertise that at the start because I want you to actually do it. So there needs to be some kind of impetus there, some kind of motivation to actually do the work. So I'm not going to shut you out of the core content on masterclasses, but please make, I'm not specifically talking to you, Beth, because it seems you are doing it, but generally, please just still do it. As you can see from all of these stories, it really does help. It really does work. And then, in answer to your, is there a continuation? I can't seem to say that word today. Continuation program. At the moment, there is. Yes, there's Make Music Your Life monthly. Now, what that is it's what is intended to do is to help you and support you to take it to the next level. What happened with Start Now, Finish Fast was there was a load of people who weren't able to finish any music, and by the end of the 6 months, they were suddenly finishing loads of music, and they were like, well, now what do we do with all this music? How do it, and so it sort of became, I was getting emails all the time about it. So I decided to make this program. It's been going 5 months now. I've got, and it's the same format as Start Now, Finish Fast. So you get videos, audio versions, and a playbook. Now, in the playbook, there are less exercises than in Start Now, Finish Fast. It's much more kind of focused because I realized that sometimes I think maybe giving you too much to do was a little bit overwhelming. So, broadly speaking, the program is split, I've mentioned this before, it's split into 3 sections. The music, where we focus on you creating an original distinctive sound, because without that, you are, well, let's just say when you have that, everything else kind of falls into place. So all of the other stuff you have to do becomes a lot easier. Then there's the mindset section, which is a lot about belief, because I know a lot of people find it hard to believe that it would even be possible to make music your life. Trust me, if I can do it, anyone can do it. But there's also stuff about overwhelm, dealing with overwhelm, and all the things you've got to do. Then there's the money section, because there's a lot of areas that the potential sources of income, which 99% of people aren't aware of, even people who are music producers. I mean, I see blog posts by kind of relatively well-known music producers, and they don't even mention half of the things where you can actually make money from music. So we talk about that. We talk about creating a kind of a stable kind of income, attempting to create a stable income through music, and the different ways you can do that. And then also how your positioning, which is something where you're kind of setting yourself apart from the crowd, can actually increase your value, and obviously all of the promotion stuff as well. Although I'll be honest with you, it's month 5 and we haven't yet got to the stuff about getting followers on SoundCloud, because to be honest, all of that stuff is much less important than creating an original sound and all that kind of thing. So there is a continuation program. It's called Make Music Your Life Monthly, and there is actually on this page, to find out more, there's a link on the right hand side for that. I think I have displayed it, have I? Let me just try and get rid of it. Yes. But I also, under every single one of my forum posts, there's in my signature, there's a link to that program as well. So that's the continuation program. I am thinking of creating another one in the future. I'm not exactly sure when that will be, which will be more specifically, more advanced. It's like a kind of more advanced Start Now, Finish Fast, specifically about kind of the same kind of thing as Start Now, Finish Fast, but taking it a step further as well. Because I am aware that some people don't want to make music their life, which is absolutely fine. So, Steve. Well, we've been going about an hour, and I've got 2 questions left, and then I'll see if there are any questions coming up here. Steve Voller, Vig Woohoo. A couple of tiny big steps here, specifically for worked out what's been holding you back. Was via a previous Q&A session where I had a big aha moment that I was doing exactly what you said not to do, which was waiting for the inspiration, motivation, and time to work on ideas. I was always waiting to be in the mood, and then your webinar brought home a quote I've loved for years but completely forgotten, lost sight of. The greatest, this is the quote by the way, the greatest composer does not sit down to work because he or she is inspired, but becomes inspired because he or she is working. Ernest Newman. There you go. This is exactly as you said it would be. It was a bit tough to start. I actually had to force myself to, but I knew you were right, that waiting for the right moment would never come because it never did. I've had months and years of proof and validation for that certainty, but once I forced myself that first time, I had such a productive time that I was instantly hooked on the work that I had been avoiding for so long. Thank you. As a result, I quickly and remarkably finished a tune that had been lingering for months on end, and I'm nearly done with another, both in about 1 month's time. This is a life changer for me, Mike. Thank you. I'm kind of bummed I wasn't at this point when this program started or even shortly after, and ironically I'm now ready to actually participate in the program, but alas, this is the final month. Regardless, I'm where I need to be now. Gratitude. One thing to say, Steve, is if you want to restart the program now you're in this kind of better place and you've kind of had that aha moment, just send me an email to support and make music your life, and I can arrange that for you, no problem. As you can see, once again, Steve is describing many of the things that I've already talked about. Going from being static to movement, that's the hardest thing you'll ever have to do. Once you're in movement, it's a lot easier. I keep on saying it, but one of the things I've realised is my job as your coach is to be a reminder service, because it's so easy with life coming at us in all directions. It's so easy to forget these things, and people think that I'm going to actually draw it again. Where is it? Where's my? I seem to have lost. Oh, there we are. Apologies for those who haven't forgotten this. I say it all the time. Okay, so people think that on the one hand you've got how you feel, and on the other hand you've got action. People think they need to feel differently, which will allow them to take action. It's like, well, I need to do, I don't know, affirmations and this, that, and the other, and all this stuff. Which, I'm not saying that stuff is bad or it doesn't work or anything like that. I'm just saying that's a lot of people get lost in this kind of personal development world, this self-help world, where they're trying to make themselves feel so that they can take action. That is precisely the wrong way around to do it. The way it actually works is you take action, which allows you to feel more motivated. If you take action first, focus on taking action, you will start to feel differently, which will then allow you to take more action. And all of the stuff I was talking, all of the stuff I've been talking about, the mental stuff, actually, like affirmations, will just help you take more action. But the first thing to do is to take action. That's why the first month is about habits, because that's all about taking action. So don't wait to feel. And the other thing is about time as well. That's another big thing that a lot of people make the very common assumption, is that when they can get to the point of giving up the day job, suddenly they'll have loads and loads of time. Nothing could be further from the truth. When you are a music producer, when you're a full-time music producer, you will have much less time than you do now, because you'll be doing everything yourself at first. You've got so many things to do. It's like running an entire business yourself. And plus, when you start playing abroad, maybe DJing all over the world, you'll have even less time. So if you can actually learn the skills that I'm teaching you in Start Now, Finish Fast now, when you've got actually more time than you're ever going to have, I know it might be hard to believe, but trust me, it's true, then you will be able to take those forward to when you don't have a day job and have much less time. I'm sure a lot of people don't believe me about that. I'm sure people think that, you know, these DJs are kind of like just sitting on their bums all day, but that's just not how it works, I'm afraid. Not if you're going to do well, not if you're actually going to make a living from it. Okay, so what's your burning question, Steve? A couple of burning questions. And he says, I apologise, you probably addressed these prior. Steve, please don't worry. In fact, everyone, don't worry about asking questions that have been answered again. As I said, one of the things I do, and is that I am a reminder service, and I'm more than happy to remind you anything that is going to get you moving and keep you moving forward. I'm totally cool with. So, first, you asked the question that I've already answered in the last, literally the last question about getting access to the stuff. You're always going to have access to the stuff, but if you want to go through the program from the beginning, then just shoot me an email to support and make music your life, and I can arrange that so that you can just go through it, you know, as if you're doing it for the first time. The second one, I'm looking to eventually get my music published. Do you recommend a particular route or source? I understand SoundCloud as a publishing model. Would you recommend, or do I just send to Agraphone? I don't know about Agraphone or TuneCore. I'm sure you get this question thousands of times over, so I appreciate your patience and any advice. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for all your efforts. Immense gratitude. About publishing, for those that don't know what publishing is, music publishing is different to releasing your records on, releasing your tunes on record labels. I'm not going to go into it here. This is something that we cover fully in Make Music Your Life Monthly, but I mean, this is one of the sources of income I've been talking about. Music publishing is about the rights to the music when it gets played, and also the rights to the recording when it gets sold. And I'm not talking about the money that comes to you from actually selling the recording. I know it sounds very confusing, and it is very confusing. Basically, music publishing is an entirely different thing. I would suggest, Steve, that you don't go for things like SoundCloud and TuneCore, because one of the things that a music publisher does is that they present your music for sync, and sync is TV, ad, film, all that kind of stuff. And I don't know about Agraphone, but things like TuneCore and I presume SoundCloud, their model is a millions and millions of tunes model, and then just and as a result, you're highly unlikely for that to happen. Plus, in that kind of model, which is a many people and one company model, it's not really, they're looking for volume. They're simply looking for volume, and it's not as in their interest to work with individual artists. I think that actually finding a more traditional publisher is a preferable route. So I can't really go into it much more in this situation, but what I would do is continue doing what you're doing. I mean, it seems to be that you've just started finishing music, so you might be in danger of slightly putting the cart before the horse. Now, I'm not saying that it's not something you want to be thinking about. It certainly is something you want to be thinking about, but just focus on getting as much music finished as possible, and it will come. And of course, you can ask me more questions on the forum or anything else. I'm always here to give you my experience. I don't actually have all of the answers in terms of the music industry, but I have a fair few. So, and then this is the last question. Okay, Pierre Olivier. I'm getting close to 30 years old. Shall I focus on working on my strengths or my weaknesses regarding my music skills? Okay, so this is a really interesting question. First of all, you say you're getting close to 30 years old. That is suggesting to me that you have some kind of beliefs about age that it might be worth you thinking about. I'm 41 years old, and I started something entirely new, completely different. I've gone into the world of entrepreneurship and business and coaching as well at the age of probably 38, 39. Okay, so, and I feel I feel like I've got plenty of time. I mean, it's not like I'm just relaxing or anything, but I mean, sometimes I do have those feelings like I wish I'd started doing this, 10 years earlier or whatever. But even if I had started doing it 10 years earlier, I would only be starting at 30 years old, bear in mind. So you're still, I mean, there is so much time. I mean, I get emails from people who are like 21 saying, am I too old? So just bear in mind that 30 is just the beginning, okay? And I'm sure people who are 60 and 70 say that 40 is just the beginning, and so on and so forth. In fact, one of my mentors, a guy called Dan Sullivan, he's like 70, and he's talking about the next 25 years of his life and what he's going to do, and how his future is going to be much bigger than his past. The thing is, everything up until this moment has been practice for your future, okay? So try not to think that you're running out of time, because you're not. The only thing that will make you run out of time is if you think, well, there's no point in me trying anymore, okay? So always think about making your future bigger than your past. Anyway, I know that wasn't a precise question, but it's amazing how some questions and language can sort of point to certain beliefs that might be there that I want you to have a think about, because these beliefs can really hold you back. Belief is one of the kind of meta things that our beliefs define what we do, what we think we can do, everything. So it's really important you kind of think about that. So, but then there's a great question: should I focus on working on my strength or my weakness regarding my music skills? I don't know exactly what your strengths or what you believe your strengths and weaknesses are. I guess it depends. The best way of working this out, okay, is defining what your goal is. So what you want to do. So if you want to, say you wanted to become and I'm not exactly sure, I have no idea what you want to do, so I'm just going to take some random examples. Say you wanted to become a worldwide superstar DJ, okay? Learning every aspect of music production, even the ones you might not be very, very good at now, might not be the quickest and most effective route to getting there. Now, I know there's a belief, I mean, I certainly had it, because I did absolutely everything in my musical process, everything, even stuff that I wasn't very good at, so in my creative process. So there is a belief that if you don't do everything in your creative process, then you're not a real music producer. That's not true. It's so not true. If you don't like, or you're not very good at the mixing, then it actually does make a lot more sense to get somebody else to do it, I think. If you want to get good at mixing, then by all means do it. If the mixing becomes like a defining part of your sound, then it probably means you can do it. But if you absolutely love all of the music production process and you want to be a music producer and do everything yourself, then of course you need to be focusing on those parts of your skills that you aren't very good at. So it depends on what you want to do, really. I used to think it was important to work on your weaknesses, and we're told this all the time. I'm actually starting to take the opposite view, which is decide. I mean, and the thing is, by working on your weaknesses, you can improve, but you're never going to be probably never going to be as good as somebody who has the strengths. So I'm starting to sort of take the view that if working on your weaknesses is something that leads you to a goal, then yes. If working on your weaknesses isn't going to help you take you, and there's a quicker, easier, more effective way of getting to that goal, whatever it might be, then working on your weaknesses isn't the best policy. Playing to your strengths is definitely a great policy. Knowing what they are and putting yourself in a situation where you can use them, and you spend more of your time on your strengths and delegate your weaknesses to other people, then that has to be a way that you can massively multiply what you can do and what you can achieve in life. So I hope that's helped. I did ramble off on one there a little bit. I'm just going to see if there are any questions. If there are any questions, now's the time to ask. There's been a lot of talk over here. Okay. I know there's a bit of a delay, by the way, on this, so great. There's been some really good talk here. Okay. TJ said, I watched Carl Hyde play with Brian Eno last night, who's 66. Yeah, I mean, in terms of making music, as long as you're not deaf, then, you know, age really isn't an issue. I mean, well, actually, even if you are deaf, age, it's not an issue because, I mean, look at Beethoven. Stanton, have you ever felt pain when meditating, emotional pain when while meditating? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what meditation tends to do for me is it kind of clears space, and sometimes that space is maybe clears space is the wrong way of putting it, but anyway, I'm sure you know what I mean. It sometimes allows other feelings that you've been suppressing to be experienced more fully. The thing is, by pushing these feelings away, what you are actually doing is increasing them and making them worse. So I have found, and this is kind of happen when you kind of get more advanced, is in it, is that actually allowing them to kind of be there and sitting with them and noticing them, letting your Maharaja inspect these feelings, if you like. There becomes this gap, a detachment from the feeling, and that is what is immensely valuable. So I'm not going to talk about pain so much. I'm going to talk about anger, for instance. So just in the day, I get angry. You still feel emotion, so you get this kind of feeling of anger. And before you'd be in this feeling of like and you can't control yourself. What happens now is I still get angry, but there's this like little Maharaja going, oh, you're angry. That's interesting, and you're viewing it from a third person, and then as a result, there's a detachment, there's a space, and that space allows the anger just to kind of dissipate as a result. And it's not like you're controlling your anger, you're not pushing it down, you're just letting it happen, and it lasts like much less time than it did before. So when you're meditating, you are likely to experience some unpleasant feelings, but by just almost like you experience with direct experience, experiencing like the feeling of the water on your back, you're literally like experiencing these feelings in a detached way, and it just allows them to dissipate, basically. Should songs be okay? Damon, should songs be mastered before sending to radio shows? I think I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I would think for radio, probably it would help. You don't really want to send something that is completely unmastered to a radio show, I would have thought, because most of the other stuff, you've got to think about the stuff that is being played around it, and they're highly unlikely to play something that is, you know, much sort of quieter or isn't mastered. So I think the short answer to that is yes. I mean, you might be able to get away with doing it yourself. I'm not sure. It depends on how good you are and what kind of radio shows you're talking about. Yeah, possibly not for sort of big radio stations, but yes, basically. No problem, Stanton. Let's see if there's anything else. Any other questions? We've still got quite a few. We've still got 24 people. Wow, all of my rambling hasn't pushed you all away. Tom says, you're never too old. The question is, are you ever going to stop doing music? Probably not. So whatever music you do, there'll be an outlet. Yep. I sincerely believe you're never too old. You're only too old when you think you're too old. Damon says, show off one track at a time or a full release all at once, or does it matter? You're going to have to be more specific. What do you mean? Show off in the sense, show off what? Are you talking about to the radio shows? If you're talking about to the radio shows, do you know what? I don't really know. I never really sent my music to radio shows, so I'm not sure. I would possibly, given that they get sent an enormous amount of music, I would possibly send them a maximum of 3, I think. The other TJ had a question. Oh God. Okay, so all the way down. Okay, here we are. Hi Mike, my question is, how do you know if you're good enough to make music your life? When's the point when you can say, I can make a living at this? Well, this is an interesting question. So there are a lot of people who aren't very good who do make music your life, that make music their life, right? I mean, I'm sure you know that. And there are a lot of people who are absolutely brilliant, wonderful, who never make music their life. So what does that piece of fact information tell you? Well, you can either go off on one and say, oh God, it's so unfair and how awful, and or you can just face the reality that being good isn't necessarily anything, making music your life isn't necessarily to do with being very good. And I know that sounds like it's terrible and everything like that, but it's much more to do with other stuff, what you do and what you don't do, what you think you can do and what you think you can't do, and the steps that you take. So first of all, I would say, you know, that link between being good and making music your life it's not a real one. Obviously, then I mean, it's a lot easier to make music your life if you are really good. But there are a lot of people that do it who aren't particularly good, and they find other ways of doing it. If health prevents you from becoming a full-time music producer, are there other avenues to make a decent living with less pressure? One of the things I would say, I mean, I can't really, you know, without being a doctor or knowing, you know, the precise features of your condition or anything, I can't really give good advice here. But one of the things I would say is that making music your life isn't easy. In many ways, what you're essentially doing is launching a new business. So you've got to think of your music as the product, and to a certain extent yourself as a product, and the music as a business. And any kind of business involves a certain amount of pressure and a certain amount of challenge. Having said that, there are people who do amazing things with, I'm sure, much worse conditions than you have, TJ. I mean, I don't know the exact thing, but there are there are bound to be. And my belief is that if one person can do something, then I can do something. Obviously, I'm not talking about becoming, I don't know, like a top performing football player or anything like that, but within reason. So if somebody else has created something or overcome certain challenges, like for instance Beethoven being deaf, then you know, it's more about belief. I think I think, TJ, that you have certain beliefs which are probably holding you back more than anything else. And I'm honestly not meaning to in any way say, you know, I'm not in any way saying that you don't have challenges or that your challenges aren't there or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if you think you can do it, then you will do anything in order to be able to do it. But if you think you can't do it, then you'll stop yourself from ever trying. So I think there aren't. There are going to be challenges. If you want to make music your life, then there are going to be challenges, and it is difficult. It's a challenging thing to do. It's often quite insecure. It can feel quite insecure. But one of the things to bear in mind is that because of the perceived choice that you have. So in lots and lots of studies, they've shown that people who are in jobs, secure, safe, stable jobs, at a certain level of income, are much less happier, are much less healthy, are much have shorter their life. The length of their life is shortened than those who are running their own business, who have a much lower income, less security, and yeah, kind of more stress. They're able to cope with much more stress. So there's a link, obviously, in your question between pressure and health. Okay, but what you're not noticing is that the lack of choice is actually also a source of it doesn't help your health either. When you run your own business, when you make your own choices, you are actually able to cope with much more stress because you have a perceived greater choice. There was a study done, I think some of you probably have seen my video about it, where they put a load of, they were in a nursing home, and one floor they gave very, very small choices to, and the other floor they didn't give them choices. I think they gave them the choice of a house plant and that they could look after it themselves, a choice of a movie night, and they said if they had any problems they could talk to who they wanted or something like that. On the other floor they gave them a house plant, they told them what movie night they were on, and they said it was something about how their complaints would be handled. I can't remember the last one. Anyway, on the floor with more choice, they experienced an enormous boost to their health, and they found out that they actually lived longer. In the floor with less choice, I think they actually had to stop the experiment because in the floor with less choice, they deteriorated and they actually died quicker. There was, I think, it was 30% or something more people died. So instead of thinking about pressure, the pressure of making music your life, which I'm not going to lie to you, there is, you know, it can feel quite scary at times. It's probably less important than whether you feel you have a choice. Okay, so yeah, I think that's the best answer I can give. Sorry, I rambled and got lost a bit there. Okay, so I think that's everything now. Yeah, as I say, if you want to check out the other program, there is a link to it under every one of my posts. That's it for now. We've been going an hour and a half, which I think is very long. I'm going to shut it down. The chat still continues going on, I think, even after I'm left. I can hear my children running around upstairs, so it's probably time I go and say hello to them. I hope this has been helpful. I will post a replay of it and the audio of it up in the forum later on today, hopefully. If not, it will be tomorrow. Keep making that music. What else? Is there anything else coming that I need to announce? No, I think that's all good. So have a good one. Onwards and upwards. And yeah, I will see you next time.